And this guy grew up in Pontiac, and he was doing all kinds of dirt. But he had a turning point in his life. It turned him around. And I found the story interesting. I hope you will, too. We're going to bring him in and talk to him. In the meantime, though, I want to hear from you. 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600. And before I say anything, let's go to Michael, who's on line one. Michael, you're our first caller of the day. How you doing?
How you doing, my brother? Glad you made it in safe. Now, last Friday I called in and I more so responded to Al's question than what I really wanted to talk about. And over last weekend, I had to look up a little more detail as to the Southern strategy. And I'm not quite yet to take you on that, but I did find out something very interesting by a man by the name of Lee Atwater.
Yes.
So I haven't formulated my proper rebuttal to that. So, but I did want to let you know you made me do some research, and I get a little bit more from where you're coming from.
Well, good. And if you saw what Lee Atwater had to say, if you found out who he was and that strategy that's been employed by the Republicans from his time ever since, maybe you and I won't need a rebuttal. Maybe we'll have an agreement.
Well, no, but we'll talk about it, Cliff. I guarantee it.
Okay.
But here's the deal. I want to call back on the taxes because, I told you guys I was saving $80 a month, and a couple of people called in and poo-pooed it, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, they said, what do you do? $80 whole dollars. Don't spend it in one time.
But that's my money. That's almost $960 a year. That's a light bill. That's a cable bill. But the bottom line is that are we really to a place to whereas I don't care if the government gives me back money, if they give back the great gregarious Cliff Russell even more money? So should I say, hey, they only gave me $80, but that big money Cliff, they gave him $180 or $8,000. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I think what people are looking for in taxes, Michael, is fairness and equity. If the government gives me back X amount of dollars in taxes, I'm probably going to smile and be happy and spend it and enjoy spending it. But if the tax policy is such that I get back a certain percentage and the very wealthy get back an even greater percentage, if the tax is such that the wealthy are given a disproportionate advantage in the tax code over me, then that is just not fair. I think it's a basic question of fairness.
No, we don't want fairness because fairness would be what the Bible says. And according to the Bible, everybody had to pay 10% in tithes. Whether you were poor or rich, everybody paid 10%. That's fair. We have a graduated tax rate, and I agree with the graduated tax rate where those who have more pay more. So nobody wants fairness because of the reason I just said. But here's the point I want to make. I looked it up again. 49% of all Americans pay zero income tax. If you do the breakdown, people making between $100,000 and $50,000 a year, they pay about 10% of the tax burden. I'm talking about personal income taxes. So 90% of the personal income taxes to the federal government comes from people making over $100,000 a year. And I'm not saying that should be changed, but that's the facts. Now, my great teachers from DPS told me that if you have two numbers that are unequal, like 100,000 and 1,000, well, if you take $1 from both, you didn't really impact them equally. You have to take it by percentages. Now, if you take the same percent from both, then you impacted them the same. So what they're saying with this tax cuts, the highest percentage drops have went to you and I in the middle class. But because the wealthy make so much money, and make it very simple. You take $200,000. If a guy is paying 20% taxes on that $200,000, that's $40,000, right? Now, if you cut that tax rate back to 15%, he's still paying $30,000. But if my taxes is $50,000 and you cut it in half, where I'm going to get a higher percentage of my money back, but he's going to get more real dollars. So what they're saying is more real dollars are going to the rich, but we already know more real dollars are going to go to the rich because they have more real dollars to start with. But what we want is who does the highest tax percentage go to, and that's how we know we have equity and equality.
I can't argue with that, and I appreciate the call, Mike. A flat tax rate where everybody pays the same percentage, that sounds fair to me, provided I can see the numbers and know that our needs are being met and that everybody is being treated fairly. I'm willing to have that discussion. But based on what I've seen about the Trump tax plan, based on what I've seen, the numbers I've seen about who pays what taxes in this country, and the wide disparity of income in this country, the percentage of money that is controlled by the 1% in this country is obscene. And so the tax policies should reflect that. And if they're not fair, they're not fair. And I would hope that the rich and the poor would want fair taxes, everybody to pay their fair share in this country. We'll have that conversation some more. I'm going to do some more homework, too. And I do enjoy the call. 313-778-7600. We have Kerry on line 2. Hey, Kerry, thanks for calling. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chris. Hey, I just wanted to know, did you guys, I don't know if you guys spoke on it already, but did you guys hear Elbert Patterson speak on how he votes for his constituents?
Are you talking about the regional transportation argument?
Yes.
Yeah, I heard a couple of quotes from him.
Yes. And, I was just saying, I wish Detroit had politicians that voted in our interest and took our interest and concern like he does his people. I vote Democrat. I'm not a Republican, but, whenever our politicians that we vote for, they always make excuses why they can't vote for our interest in Detroit. And that's all I really have to say.
No, I appreciate the call a lot. Elbert Patterson has been bombastic for years and very bold about how he supports Oakland County, how he will challenge Detroit or challenge other counties if it's going to impact Oakland County in a negative way. That's how he got elected. We know about his career. We know about busing. We know about a number of things about him. And that's what his constituents like. Now, you raise an interesting point. The question is, do Detroit elected officials stand up for Detroit to the extent that they should? Do they fight for Detroiters and fight for their constituency the way an Elbert Patterson or somebody else does? And I think depending on which specific lawmakers you're talking about, you have some interesting questions there. I have thought for a long time that there were some folks who were elected in Detroit on the city council, state senator, state representative, Wayne County Commission, all that stuff, who once they get there, they tend to start representing other people's interests and making excuses to us as to why we can't have certain things and why their hands are cuffed. We may have to have that conversation one day. I got time for some more callers. Let's do that. Let's go to Ronald, who's on line 3 right now. Hey, Ronald, good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Hey, good afternoon, Cliff. How are you? Look here, you've had some wonderful subjects on this week, so I'd like to backtrack. I think it was Monday and Tuesday, you had some discussions on sports and kids going into sports and why they need to be prepared for not succeeding in sports. And then my thought process was, well, where are the parents in this? And where's the conversation with the parents? Well, then on the next day, you had a wonderful example of a mother that called in and who was concerned about her son in a suburban school. And I believe she was on target, really, really on target with that. So that was the example of a parent being there. And I think that was the missing element on Monday, that parents need to be involved in their kids' upbringing in sports in case they don't make that $2 million contract that they're looking for. Then if they do get the contract, what happens if they get hurt or they are not as experienced or as good as they think they are? And then my next one, and I'll let you go and then you can respond. I need to know when you're going to have a show on tenant landlord subjects and what have you, because I live in an apartment complex right now, and I'm not going to name it, and I think I named it before. We're having some difficulty over here in the East and West Tower. And, I mean, real difficulty. Fight versus people who have been displaced 200, and we're being called back in. Partners not move-in ready. Partners are not ready, and they aren't paying for people to be put up in the hotels and what have you. And I understand the business there, but there's also a human factor. There's also a human nature factor. People are being. I'm talking about elderly people and young people with families. Yes. We are not being treated fairly. So I need to know when you are going to have a tenant-landlord show and discussion. I heard Bad Growth yesterday.
Rachel McCracken is here with me. She's an engineer, but she's, kind of my eyes and ears sometimes. She's going to remind me that we are going to commit to do a show about landlord-tenant relationships. All right? As a matter of fact, I think she would like to see me do a show about landlord tenant relationships. So we'll do that. And then the other question you had for me was about sports, right?
Yes.
Yes. I will. No, go ahead, man.
No, I was going to say sports and these children not understanding what it takes to reach that top echelon and who is there to support them when they don't reach that.
And you talked about the parents. Yes, you were talking about the parents. Let me put it this way, and I appreciate the call a lot, Ronald. I've done a lot of coaching now. I've added it up. I think I have over 11, 12 years of coaching experience now. One season at the junior college level, but the rest all high school and a little bit of middle school, but mostly high school. And you are absolutely right about the need for parents to be involved in their sons' or daughters' athletic careers. But now you have a lot of parents and, frankly, a lot of mothers, because unfortunately you got some young men who are involved in athletics and daddy not around, but mama is. You get some mothers, unfortunately, who see that their son or daughter is playing sports, that they are good at it, and they start thinking in terms of scholarships and going to the NBA and being a pro and making a lot of money and maybe taking care of me one day. And that's great if that happens. But I think you're absolutely right. You need to help that son or daughter navigate this business of sport. It's a long way from being a high school star to being in the pros, trust me. I had a conversation sometimes with guys who played sports like I did. And I played in high school in the 70s and college in the 70s as well. And, when we were little kids, we all started out wanting to be basketball players, let's say. And then you get to high school, and some of us made our varsity teams and some of us didn't. And that was a goal. Well, then with on that varsity team, some of us became stars. We were all state. We made all these honors and awards. We got to play in the all-star games. And some didn't. Some played, but they didn't get a chance to make that. And then some of us got a chance to play in college. We all wanted to play for a Division I college in basketball. Some of us made it, and some of us didn't. And so I'm very appreciative for what I was able to do in athletics and as far as I was able to go. But it is still a long way to make it to the pros and to be a star and to make that kind of money. And so it's a long way to get to college and be a star. And so that was a great point. Talk to your young people about being scholars, about looking for a quid pro quo. If you go to college, if you're fortunate enough to go to college, don't go because you want to be a star. Go because you want to be a scholar. And if you become a star in the process, so be it. Hey, we got to take a break right now. When we come back, we got callers on the line. I'm going to get to every single one of you. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. This is 910 AM Superstation in this snowy weather, the future of radio.